Welcome to Cut the Bull, an insightful podcast which addresses the news of the day and the cultural issues plaguing our society, bringing logic and context to these topics and discussing solutions too real for mainstream pundits. Now, here are your hosts, Charles Love, Shamika Michelle, and Wilfred Riley.
Hello and welcome to Cut the Bull. I am Charles Love alongside my co-hosts, Shamika Michelle and Wilfred Riley. And our guest this week is Kathy Barnette, former U.S. Senate candidate, author of Nothing to Lose, Everything to Gain. Can you see that there? And a national spokesperson for 1776 Action. Kathy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's great to have you. We're going to talk about a lot of things political and cultural. I guess we'll get to the book too a little bit. There's some interesting things I want to. So you got some chapters there that kind of cycle through the what's in the news and what we're discussing on Twitter and everywhere else right now. But I think I want to start with. I'm sure you've done this so many times, so I won't go too long. But a bit of the post-mortem on the election. Both the look at your face. No, both the overall supposed red wave that some say didn't happen at all and fizzled. I say it's a little more complex than that. And then the interesting situation in Pennsylvania as well. But let's start with yours, your view on that. One, what made you decide to run for Senate, and the peculiar and very odd approach on how the Republicans address your primary.
I know. Okay, let's go piece by piece. And you may want to ask, if I don't answer your questions fully, please re-ask. I'll get to it. What made me run? I mean, you and I have known each other for some time now, Charles. I don't even know how many years.
Men in Chicago.
I know, right? It's been a while, maybe over 10 years at this point. And I am still the same person. And, those same values that brought me out of the Democrat Party when I was a junior in college are those same values that led me to jump into the realm of politics in the first place. And although I did not prevail, those values are still my values. I am still the exact same person. I love my country. I love people. I don't care who you are. I want to see people do well. Our nation is struggling. We have very real problems, and the people at the helm right now, I'm just going to talk about the Republican Party at the moment, because I think we all know most of the Democrats are just bobbleheads, and what they're offering the American people is just utter foolishness. But when you look at, so let's just talk about our side for a moment, or at least my side for a moment. And what you have here are a lot of people who are not incentivized to do the right thing just because it's the right thing, right? Like generally we say, it's the right thing. This is what's right. I spent a lot of time with our political leaders at the state level, at the national level, and I can assure you they are, not all of them, but many of them are not incentivized to do the right thing just because it's the right thing. And that puts all of us in a very precarious situation, because again, we have some very real problems. We need to be very serious about what's going on. And I believe we have some very unserious leadership at the helm. So that is what caused me, because, you know me, Charles. I was at that time a stay-at-home mom, homeschooling my kids. I have a very long career. I feel like I've lived, 9 lives like a cat, from, growing up on a pig farm in Southern Alabama, very impoverished. But then finding my way into the military to help pay for college, which ended me in the financial industry, working with A.G. Edwards and Sons, and then moving over to Bank of America Capital Asset Management. Then corporate America, adjunct professor of corporate finance, authoring my first book. But then I found myself homeschooling my children, because I saw about 10 years ago what a lot of people are just now waking up to, the foolishness that is in the school. I always felt like I could compensate what my babies were not learning education wise. But when my 5-year-old, who had just started kindergarten, came home with a slip saying she had a guidance counselor, and then when I asked the guidance counselor to send me their teaching objectives, and it was 35 of the most ridiculous things on that teaching objective. And a lot at that time, it was the beginning of teaching about different family configurations, which is LGBTQ, buzzword for that, and teaching my 5-year-old daughter about how to identify different family configurations and how to respect it. And I felt then, 10 years ago, that it was outside of their pay grade. I send my children to school to teach reading, writing, arithmetic, doing some social studies and science, and send my babies back home to me. Their father and we will parent our children. And so that's where I was when I began to look around at our country and say, what can I do? And I think this is my path. And I stepped into the world of politics.
Will, anything you want to add or comment about the many things she told us about herself?
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily so much on that. I mean, it's an interesting life path. And I mean, to some extent, I think that the more people we have the more people we have in politics that have some background other than being political or bureaucratic leeches, whether or not I, agree with them, all of them on the right or the left, the better, definitely. So, I mean, I think with the moms movement, so you're going to see more people coming from business or housewife backgrounds and running for office. I can't see that it could make things worse than the kind of Mitch McConnell versus Ted Kennedy dynamic we've had for many decades. I guess my one question for Kathy would be kind of going back to the start of your question. What do you think happened in the most recent election?
Yeah. We heard a lot about the red wave.
Yeah,
We
quite a
were
bit.
all looking for it. It did not manifest itself. I know we have to kind of conjure up a story to make ourselves feel good and go to sleep at night. But given the last 2 years of the literal hell we've been living through, you would think this would be a cakewalk for us to be able to walk. And let's not forget, we have history on our side as well. So not only the abysmal administration of the Biden administration, but history is on our side that we would have had a red wave. And yet somehow Republicans were able to snatch victory out of the jaws, right? They were able to just reach and snatch defeat instead of snatching up on victory. And especially here in Pennsylvania. So whatever your story may be on a broader, a national level, here in the state of Pennsylvania with these 19 electoral college votes, we got a shellacking. We lost. We're the only state to have flipped a Republican Senate seat to Democrats. And I'm sure the person who won, Fetterman. We lost the governor seat. We also we lost the state house, something we have held on to for about 14 years, maybe 12 to 14 years, and we lost that as well. And so we did not see that red wave. Now, why is that? One, I mean, there are many reasons, but one, I'll pause here, is that, they talked about this red wave, and I honestly believe that we had all the puzzle pieces to create this red wave. But when you have one puzzle piece on the counter, another puzzle piece under the couch, another puzzle piece in the kitchen on the dining room table, and there's no one going and pulling all these puzzle pieces together to create the story, to show the American people of who we are as a people, how far we've fallen under the Biden administration, and what we could be. You had no one doing that. The only thing we saw, people doing, especially in the general election, was, just commenting on that individual puzzle piece. Biden is bad. Yes, we know that. Gas is high. Yep, I know that too. Oh, there's crime. Yep, I got it. But no one, so we were just pointing at it. No one was pulling it together, putting the pieces together, putting the puzzle in front of Americans so that they can understand what is going on, how far we've fallen, and how great we can be if we got ourselves together. No one did that. So the only message we had, especially in the primary, was a message of vitriol. But other than that, you didn't see a very clear and concise message. And then you get into the general, and nobody bothered to pick up the puzzle pieces and put it together. The second issue is, truly mail-in ballots. That is a problem. So I'll just pause there. There's a lot I can say.
Yeah, I think
But
as a quick follow-up to that, and by the way, yeah, I mean, all this sort of kind of near cheating where you don't need an ID to vote, you can mail in your vote for 3 weeks. What's the other one? Ballot harvesting, where canvass offices now have the addresses of every Dem and Republican voter in every district. Yeah, I mean, my prediction as a political scientist would be the GOP is going to keep getting its ass kicked unless they can figure out how to almost cheat too. I mean, like there's no reason you can't put these drop boxes at gun ranges or something like that. I mean, there has to be a strategic response. But the one point that you made, so I guess actually 2 quick comments. One point you made there actually is very important. It's something I heard a lot from politically moderate friends, especially women during the election cycle. And it's kind of the question of what does the political right in the USA stand for? Like, I know you guys don't like Joe Biden. Everyone dislikes Joe Biden. Joe Biden's brain's made of soup. But what do you represent? What's the goal?
Yeah.
It can't just be, say, giving tax cuts to the rich. That was something that was often said kind of sarcastically, or like the educational stuff, I think, is actually, there's a lot of potential there. DeSantis knows that. But what does the right represent? A final question for you as one of the candidates in one of these big races. What role do you think candidate quality plays? Because that's kind of the elephant in the room. Everyone wants to be polite about it, but it's not often brought up. Like, I mean, in the Pennsylvania race, you had a literal snake oil salesman, Mehmet Oz. No offense to the dude, but like running against John Fetterman, who had severe brain damage. So, I mean, like looking at the debate between those two guys, I watched a half hour of it. I turned it off. I put on a hockey game as a black man, which should tell you something about, how depressing this experience was. But to what extent does putting out guys like Mehmet Oz affect your chances of winning?
Yeah. When you talk about, the list that the Democrats have, guess who else have those lists? Republicans. I could pull up my voter roll at any time and say, these are the 4s, the 3s, the 2s, the 1s, the 0s, and let me do some of the same thing. But again, there's no strategy. There's no messaging. It's just a lot of beating of the chest, rah, rah, picking up the pom-poms, we can do it kind of thing. And there's nothing behind it. And the people saw it, right? And so I know that there's a lot of blistering going on and a lot of, well, gee, golly whiz, right? Let's just go and do it again. But the people saw what I was watching. And, I ran in 2000, absolutely no help from the GOP. I ran in 2022 when I went to Washington, D.C. and started making all my rounds. I won't mention their names, but one of them they're all, you all know all of them. The first question I was asked, even before his bottom touched the seat, was, how much money are you raising? No one asked me, what are your values? What's your plan? How long are you even a Republican? No one asked me those questions. It was, how much money are you raising? How much money are you raising? How much money are you raising? Right? As if that is all you need. Money is very important. But what I showed is that money is not the only thing you need. When you look at, just my 2 primary opponents, Mehmet Oz and Dave McCormick, between the 2 of them, they spent $60 million just in the primary, the most expensive primary ever. I spent $1.6 million. And I was about to win. That's the reason why the long knives came out in the last 5 days of the races, right? They spent $60 million. I spent $1.6 million, and I only lost by 4 points, right? That did not happen by osmosis. I ran a far superior campaign, a far and more intelligent and focused campaign. We could talk about what happened in those last 5 days, but that's the end of it. When you come to, you know, candidate quality, according to Sean Hannity, only ones could win. So, and I saw him, you know, beat his paper on the desk, tick tock, tick tock. You know, I've done my analysis. Only Oz can win. Only Oz can win. Only Oz can win, people. And I am hopeful, and I'm going to do my part to make sure Pennsylvanians never forget that we had, you know, who these particular outsiders who don't even live in our state, who they are, and the lie they sold to shove Dr. Oz down our throat. I mean, it didn't take a rocket scientist, but when you have people in our leadership who are basically country club Republicans, and you know, their problem with me is that I did not ask to be in to I didn't wait to be asked to join the party or to have a seat at the table. I just walked in and sat down, and they don't like that very much, right? They need you to kiss the ring, you know, grease the wheels, and do a whole lot of other things. And instead of doing that, I just kind of walked in and said, "Hello, how are you doing? This is what we're going to do today." And they didn't like that very much. So candidate quality, as I said to so many people, especially when I was in a primary, you know, if they think they have a crystal ball, they need to go turn that crystal ball in, because it's broken. It's not working. Their crystal ball did not tell them I was coming up right behind, right in between the two of them. Their crystal ball, apparently, that told them only Dr. Oz could win. Again, they need to reassess. I'm not holding my breath on them reassessing themselves. So we have some plans. You know, we're moving on and doing our own thing. So,
well, let me ask you one question. Then I want to get Shamika in here, but to that primary race, I know, and I don't like it, but it happens. You get into a close primary, and the candidates start doing attack ads and attacking each other because they're trying to win. Like it or not, politics is kind of played that way. But when you get to the outsiders and that kind of thing, and what we saw there in your race seemed to be unique for some reason. I don't know. I'm sure you asked, you saw it happen and you lived it, but it's been a while, right? So you got, excuse me, a chance to think about it. So have you heard anything, any suggestions, or people who know or in the know about why that was? Why
I'm
it was so
writing a book, Charles. I'm writing a book, part 2.
Right. So that's important to know.
Some things.
Right. People want to know kind of like, well, why were the knives so sharp? Why were, because they were what? I mean, if you think about it, we're not in position. There were 5 people running, right? Because I know there was there was Oz and you. There was another guy who was ahead of you before you surged. There was another woman.
Dave
right.
McCormick.
So there were 4 or 5 people all kind of jockeying, but
it was like we had 7 people right. in my primary.
And so all of the attacks in that last 2 weeks were all you. And it was the weird question. Like, I read some of the questions. It was like, well, what town is she from? Like, were they implying you were born in another country? What difference does it make which town in this country, unless you're saying she was really born in, you know, Tehran or something? What is the point? It seemed so laughable to me. And you know, did you hear anything, or have you, I mean, that you don't, you want to say before the book that kind of indicated why it was just such a campaign that your campaign needed to be stopped?
It could not happen. There was no way on God's green earth they're going to let a little black girl from a pig farm in Southern Alabama come up in here and flip over the tables and be like, I'm here. Right. There was no way they were going to let that happen. They had a lot on the line, you know, and I know in the Republican Party, we don't want to make it about race. We only think Democrats are racist. I don't know. I'm gonna leave that to the people to discern. What I recognized was that, Sean Hannity had a lot on the table. He was the one that I believe, from what I know and heard, You know, he had a lot on the line. He was the one that kind of shoved Oz on Donald Trump, and Donald Trump had put his weight and measure behind Mehmet Oz. And so for someone like me to just sweep in, that would have done damage to Trump's reputation. And reputation is very important to Trump. Being able to have his scorecard of these are the people I endorsed and they are going to win. That's very important to some people. Perhaps more important than actually getting a really great person in office who will represent America First principles, right? And so there's a lot of, you know, a lot of people have a lot of motivations. And so, yeah, and it's very unfortunate because we needed that seat. I think my win, and you know, I'm reading Ray Dalio's book, and in the first chapter he says failure is not the end. And so I have no regrets. I don't feel the sting of losing anything. If anyone should feel the sting, it should be the people who were manipulated, who allowed themselves to be manipulated by people like Sean Hannity, Rick Grinnell, Greg Kelly, and others. They should be feeling the sting right now, and refuse to be gullible going forward. Refuse to allow other people. I mean, it's one thing if Mehmet Oz had ever done one conservative thing in his life for us to point to, but there's not one thing we can ever point to say, oh look, he used his mega platform to push our values at any one time. And you know, and the reality is we have a lot of very gullible people in our party, and the Republican Party, and people like Sean Hannity know that, and so they count on that. Instead of informing these people, they use them, to manipulate them and to get their way. And so my heart goes out to the people because I love Pennsylvania. I love Pennsylvanians, and I believe that they deserve better than what they got.
Shamika?
So this is why Gomer Pyle is headed to Washington, because it just felt like this entire, and I think that's an insult to Gomer Pyle, I'm sorry, but it just felt like the good old boys. They came together and they came against Kathy, and it was really silly. You had Sean Hannity with his big block head. He gets on my absolute nerves. All he's missing is the two bolts in his neck. And Rick Grinnell, who wouldn't know a genuine woman if she walked up and slapped him in the face. And so it bothered me that they came together against Kathy with BS, and that Trump got behind it. What they should really feel now is stupid. They should all feel like idiots, because that's what they look like. And anybody who lined up and actually listened to them should feel just as dumb, because if this was about who could actually win, Kathy was doing well. I don't know why you would put someone or back someone who supported abortion. He also supported the kids going transgender. Yeah, transitioning. Why would you support a man that was against everything that we claim to represent in the conservative party? This was just silly to me, and it felt like maybe Sean Hannity had some money in there or some dealings in there, because it was so crazy to me that they would actually come in the last hour to actually back Oz, who was not even a good candidate. So all of them should feel stupid, and I will remind them every chance that I get that they failed. Trump, you backed the candidate that lost.
Okay, I got, I follow with Shamika. Is always every time I'm on the fence. Shamika's always right. I'm always like, I'm just gonna guide and let Will and Shamika do their thing, and then it's cut the bull, and Shamika has to go there. And okay, I was like, whether I say this or not. So Kathy already established that we are friends. We also have, ironically, another mutual friend, Stephanie Trussell, who ran for statewide office in Illinois. And there's another weird, thing there, that I never thought I'd be saying that, see coming, right? Both of them supported Trump, were open about it. We had conversations about it. Like, I was like, really? And Kathy was like, yeah, this is, she's explaining all this stuff to me. I'm on the radio with Stephanie, and it's like 5 Black people, all conservatives, all Trump supporters. They're telling me about rallies, how you have to go. It's gung ho. She's got a MAGA hat on. They both end up running for state office, right? So Trump goes with Oz for whatever reason there. So that's the one thing. And then at the 11th hour, Stephanie's the lieutenant governor candidate. They get the Trump endorsement, but Trump's like, yeah, but I heard that she doesn't really like Trump. So she can't really come and stand in the circle next to me when we do the photo shoot or come on stage when I do the endorsement. Because he doesn't believe, because just like they said, Kathy was like, supporting BLM and all this other stuff. And I'm like, come on, these are people that are behind the scenes. We're talking about Trump and they're talking about Trump is going to win. And now that they're running for office, this is what they're getting through, that he's obviously getting through what word from other people. But she's on radio saying this thing. And because you mentioned that, you were talking about that and you were open about, questioning this last minute 11th hour thing. So when that happened, because Kathy mentioned him, Rick Grinnell and get what is it, Sean Hannity and Greg Kelly. So I don't really, we always talk about, well, I'm a conservative, I'm not a Republican, I say all this stuff or whatever. So I saw this debating back and forth, and that wasn't really the way. I don't get in debates with people on Twitter, but I know people, so I don't even know if I've mentioned this to Kathy enough. But I called Greg Kelly after they started going in on Kathy. I'm like, what is going on? What is this thing you have about Kathy? So he's asking me all these questions, the same things that they were saying, like, well, is she really a conservative? I'm like, yeah, she's a conservative. I've known her for years or whatever. So I'm like, but where's this coming from? There's lots of primaries where you choose somebody, but this isn't just, I think this person is a better candidate. I'm not paying attention to, I'm not going to tell you who you should vote for in a Republican primary for senator, but this isn't, this person's a better candidate. What I'm seeing is just these open, kind of like attacks or, pulling up these forums, or do we really know she's American or whatever the case may be. I'm like, this just seems so crazy. So that was my way of addressing it. And then I don't know Rick Grinnell, but we have a mutual friend. So I called that person, can you find out where this is coming? Because it seemed so calculated. It didn't just seem like, you go to other primaries, like in Illinois, there were like 10 people running and they attacked each other in ads and in debates, but the other people around them, the chair of the GOP or the conservative person on the radio in drive time wasn't on there really attacking other people. Like Dan Proft in Chicago eventually supported one of those candidates, but during the primary, he wasn't ripping them on the radio. This just seems so odd to me. So I felt that, my best approach was to go to people directly because I knew them. And I know Shamika was out there saying, well, this makes no sense. I just don't know why. And I still to this day don't really know why. It just seemed odd to me. But
I just told you why. Listen, like, where do you even begin? They had a lot to lose. They had put up a lot of chips on the table. And Sean Hannity put a lot of chips on the table to push him onto Trump. Let me tell you something. I did not lose to Oz. I lost to Donald Trump and Sean Hannity.
Right.
Oz could not have won. Oz could not have won. Oz did not win the primary. Donald Trump and Sean Hannity won the primary. And I only lost by 4 points, maybe 5 points, just round up. 5 points, right? I lost by 5 points. So that's pretty amazing on $1.6 million. And the reason why they weren't so nasty across their nation is because I was actually going to win. I was surging, and I surpassed McCormick. Who had spent $30 million. He was supposed to win. And I was on the heels of Oz and getting ready to eclipse him. So the reason why the long knives came out for me was because I was about to win. Mm-hmm. And they had, and the attack did not start in the last 2 weeks. It started in the last 5 days of the race. I know exactly when it started, on that Wednesday, the Wednesday before the election. And Sean Hannity has an hour radio show and an hour television show, and he dedicated both hours every single day to just punching me. On Friday, he was telling people I was a part of Black Lives Matter, and by Monday, he was telling those same people I was marching with Proud Boys. I'm like, I can't be both people, pick one.
Right.
But they didn't care. They needed, I don't know if you saw that horribly edited film that Rick Grinnell himself posted on Twitter, and Sean and Greg Kelly, I believe, also aired it on air of me. They called it Crazy Kathy, and it was literally splices of words of different times that I had spoken, and they just spliced it together. They were desperate. And in their desperation, they got very sloppy in those first couple of days. They just needed something. I don't know if you even saw, like Sean Hannity had on his show, look, she has hashtag defund police and hashtag Black Lives Matter on Twitter. She must be a Black Lives Matter sympathizer, right? Now, we all know that you use hashtag in order to draw attention to those who actually follow those hashtags. So it was me actually being bold and saying, yeah, I'm talking about Black Lives Matter, and I'm going to tag them so that they can see what I'm saying, right? And so they know it. In fact, I was on Sean Hannity's show 7 times prior. He loved me. I have all kind of clips of him. Even when I wasn't on the show, he was talking about me. It was when Mehmet Oz decided to run, and they are apparently good friends, and he wanted to flex his power and his might, and he really greased the wheels with Oz, with Trump, I believe. And
well, last thing to that though is you just mentioned something about them being good friends. Well, at least you got to admit that he's a good friend. He's going to bat for his friend, because I thought Oprah was Mehmet's friend.
And she took the juices.
And Oprah flew out there
probably
to
not
say,
going to
"I'm going
endorse
with
a
the neck."
Republican candidate, though, on Democrats buy sneakers too.
Just say, but Oprah produced his show for 13 years, right?
And she's like,
and
"Give me the
neck."
And then she said, "I'll take the neck."
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Shamika?
No, I was just going to say this makes me feel that the whole uniparty thing is actually real and exists, because you have to know that Oz was not the better candidate. So why would you even risk the seat simply to hold a friendship or to protect whatever investments you may have? Like, if it's about us really making a change, I think people should focus in on those who don't really want change. Are we really who we say we are? Are we really wanting to do what we say we want to do? Because if you did, you would go with the candidate that's actually going to win the seat. No one thought Oz was really going to win.
But I think you won better,
just
though.
To jump in there for a quick second, that actually there's an interesting point there in terms of, like, Kathy, what you call kind of the good old boys club. The idea, so they're kind of a couple things. They're like, one is and I'm interested in what all you guys think about this. One is the role of Donald Trump, because I mean, you mentioned pretty specifically that Trump is friends with quote unquote Dr. Oz, and is one of the guys that was encouraging people, including Sean Hannity. I've heard this myself, to back the guy. But Donald Trump actually backed a bunch of non-victorious candidates. I mean, like, Herschel Walker is a good personal friend of Donald Trump's, and Herschel Walker seems like he'd be a fun guy to go party with. But I mean, you keep seeing these revelations, like he's related to a good percentage of the state of Georgia. He once allegedly claimed to be an FBI agent. Okay, like, he was a businessman, he had some fun. But like, that's normally the sort of stuff that you would investigate looking into a successful businessman or woman before they run, so you can knock someone out of the race. I mean, you had Blake Masters, you had a bunch of these candidates. So one question, I guess, is what's the role of Trump going to be in the party going forward? I mean, is he going to be kind of behind the scenes proposing wealthy friends of his to lose elections for the next 4 or 6 years? I mean, like, he did some good things as president, but is that going to be allowed? And that ties into the question of, if he's not, who's going to be making those decisions? So bluntly, one of the things that you hear in a lot of these races, the idea of candidate unelectability. I don't know why anyone didn't apply that to John Fetterman, who had some issues talking and so on. But I mean, like, I frankly
It
Googled.
doesn't apply. It doesn't apply to Democrats. It only applies to Republicans who apparently are looking for Jesus Christ himself to come and
Right.
sign up and run in these races, right? Because the only perfect person will be Jesus. And so, and outside of him, I mean, who are they waiting on? And so they applied this very ridiculous and really it's just a testament to, to the fact that Republican voters typically
Mhm.
only want to travel down the road most traveled, right? They don't want to do a whole, because if they have to do the work, then they can't go, to the shore home. They can't take vacation. They actually have to donate. And so for Republicans, right, some of the criteria is for you to run is, are you rich, right? Because if you're rich, then that means you're not going to ask me to help you. And you're not going to be asking for my money, right? And then you have a lot of rich friends and you can just go to those rich people, right? If you're rich, then you can just, hire people who will go door knocking, and you really won't ask me to go door knocking. You won't really require much of me except on election day to walk in and cast my vote, right? And now that does not apply to everyone. Let me just say, just to qualify, because someone will hear this and be like, oh, she's saying this about everybody. No, when I say I was grassroots, I was absolutely grassroots. I had 3 full-time team members. My driver, my scheduler, and 1 field director. Everyone else, hundreds of people, were volunteers, and they would work full-time jobs, and then they would come and roll up their sleeves and work another 12 hours for me. I had people driving all over this state, it's 67 counties, and this is a very large state. I mean, they did any and everything. I just love my team members. I love the volunteers. They worked so hard. So this obviously doesn't apply to everyone, but there is a very large portion of the Republican Party, almost 2/3 of them. I got almost 1/3 of the vote. Those are the smart ones. And then you have about 2/3 that we're going to have to do some work with and kind of give some of them, some courage to be able to stand up and do the right things. Some of them are going to have to be taught how to fight, right? And not to only look for Jesus to come and run in these elections, but that you have people, and that's the thing I think also that we have to get out of our mind, right? Because you look at the kind of candidates Republicans put up, and they're all of the, they all wear these little puffer vests and these khaki pants, and they're all told to grin and smile and don't really commit to any one thing, right? Be loosey goosey on everything. Put your foot on both sides of the aisle. Um, and they don't have a lot of depth in color in their story or in their life, right? They all appear to have grown up in these pristine environments and all have gone to West Point and done the best, right? And what I think most Republicans don't understand is that for the overwhelming majority of the nation, that just doesn't compute. It certainly doesn't compute with me, right? It's not a home run if you're, knocking it out of, if you're born on third base. So if but in the Republican Party, it's almost like you have to be born on third base and then you come in to home plate and they're like, oh, wow, look at you. You're really awesome. But for someone like me who grew up underneath a rock. I mean, I grew up in a home with no insulation, no running water, an outhouse in the back and a well on the side. When I say poor, I mean, we were so poor we couldn't afford the other O. We were just O. But no one ever told me I was a victim. I saw my family working very hard. I grew up on a pig farm and I would watch my grandfather, take a hog, slaughter a hog, and I would sit in the front truck with him as he go from home to home in our little community, sharing a portion of our wealth. And so I grew up watching what it meant to be a family, what it meant to be a community, what it meant to take care of each other, what it meant to struggle, but to, to do your best. And, and I had to struggle getting through life. No one told me how this thing works. And I think that is what drew people to me, is that they saw authenticity. I hadn't been all polished up by the consultants. I walked out in front of people and I said, this is my story, and my story takes place in America. But I honestly believe that if I was on that pig farm today, I would be stuck on that pig farm. Things are extreme. When I go back, I take my children back home once a year. And, we were poor when I grew up. Today, they have all kinds of government aid, and it is depressing in that community now. The crime, the drugs, the diseases. Things that I would have never, the breakdown of the family. It's just very different than how I grew up. And I believe it's in large part because of the quote unquote leaders that we have. But what drew people to me was not because I looked the part in the Republican Party. What drew them to me was not that I was the richest in the room or that I was the most likely of candidates, but it was people wanted someone they can identify with. And the Republican, and like it or not, you get these Democrats. They're not the best either, but they present themselves as being vulnerable, as not having all the answers, as being more human and flawed. And on our side, I tell you no lie, they're looking for Jesus to come and run in these races. And if you have a blemish or nicked your knee on something once upon a time in your life, they're like, oh, you're unelectable. You can't win, right? You got a hashtag BLM. Let me think about that. All they had to say was, look, here's a hashtag BLM, hashtag Black Lives Matter. That must mean there's something about her and that makes her unelectable. And there were enough people to say, yeah, we don't know. She really could be Black Lives Matter, right? Although if you open up my book, Charles, and the first chapter I dedicated to Donald Trump and his presidency, right? The 4 years of his presidency. Right. But hey, we don't want to read. We don't have to go look at. I spent 4 years on Fox News. You know this, Charles. For the 4 years of Donald Trump's presidency, Fox News would pick me up and drive me to New York. And I was on their show 2 to 3 times a week. There's a plethora of video footage of me espousing our values. But hey, who cares about that? Here's a hashtag that says Black Lives Matter. So clearly she must be a Black Lives Matter sympathizer. So again, our people need to stop being so gullible. Not all of them, not the 1/3 that voted for me, but clearly the 2/3 that didn't. They need to stop being so gullible and stop waiting for Jesus to come and get a backbone, so that we can go out here and do the hard work of winning our nation back.
Well, you talked about your story a couple of times, and I want to pivot briefly to that, in the sense that, we talk politics for a good while here, but there's a cultural rot that we're experiencing. You obviously noticed part of it before everybody else because you pulled your kids out of school. So what do you want to say to that? What do you think? Obviously we're losing our nation, so you got to figure it's worse. What you described happening to your kid then would be, water under the bridge compared to now. These parents wish they only had that problem. So I know I've talked about some of the issues with my teacher, my son's teachers here. But what do you think? What do you see where the culture is going, from where it was then, obviously why you ran, and what you see coming up in the next couple of years and what we're fighting against?
Yeah, well, politics flows downstream from culture, I believe. And if our culture today is any indication of where our politics is going to lead to, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good when we're now at the point where we can't even define a woman. That's not a good sign that we're on the uptick. When we are showing flat out pornography to our children, that's not a good sign that our politics is going to improve anytime soon. These are bottom basement dwellers, and we need to recognize it. We need to unclutch our pearls, and we need to start standing on our 2 feet. Parents, you need to realize that these are your children, not the state. They do not love your children more than you do, and that you have every right to have a voice in what is being taught to your children. Stop asking for permission and recognize that this is who you are. And I intend to be a very big player in the upcoming year on school boards and all of that. I mean, I got almost a third of the vote. Sean Hannity is a jackass. That is established, but at the same time, he has given me a multi-million-dollar name ID. People know me everywhere I go now. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
And so I intend to use that, for those values that are still my values. I believe this is a great country, but our country is in trouble. And the people who know better, whether on the left or the right, there are some good Democrats. I mean, I'm the only out of the closet Republican in my family, except for my husband and my children. I have everybody else are Democrats, and I love them, and we have a wonderful time. I mean, we debate, we go in, and then we go sit down and eat, right? Because we're, to the best of I don't argue, like you said, Charles. You won't see any video footage out there with me arguing, but you would see me standing flat-footed and looking someone right in the eye and telling them what we will and will not be doing, and what is true, what is not true. I know what it means to be a woman, and I'm not afraid to define it. I know that transitioning children at a young age is evil. It is, people have lost their mind when you have people cheering on 15-year-old girls cutting off their healthy breasts. And you want to tell me I'm the one who's crazy? I'm the one who's a Christian nationalist? They don't even know what that means. Like, what's the opposite of a Christian nationalist? Atheist, globalist? I think I'd rather take the Christian nationalist road, right? But you have these people trying to tell us that that we're wrong. I'm not wrong. I'm right. And I'm going to stand up for those values.
And you didn't even mention crime. I mean, what is crime like in Pennsylvania? I know what I'm dealing with here in New York. You were one of the people, I didn't even mention that. Kathy's one of the people that told me I should move to New York. I was talking about, I got this opportunity out there. Like, boy, you're going to forget all about Chicago when you move in. That's where the action is. I'll drive up from Philly to hang out with you. It's going to be great.
I love
when they
it.
start pushing people on the train, she's like, I'm not coming up there.
I did. We used to go to New York every weekend. If Fox News wasn't taking me there 2 to 3 times a week, my babies and I, we would jump on the train and we were up there. I
haven't seen you.
I haven't been in 2 years. I just left out of Philadelphia, and I carry my Second Amendment around with me everywhere I go. With these people, okay? I refuse to be a victim. I'm not looking for trouble.
We talk about education and all this other stuff, the transitioning children, but we're telling people that we shouldn't have people in jail. The jails are overcrowded. Let the people out. So they might be overcrowded. I'm not disagreeing with you, but could it be that they're overcrowded because they were breaking the law and there's too many of them breaking these laws? Maybe that's why they're there. Unless we're assuming that they're all innocent, the crime has something to do with why they're there, right? Nobody wants anybody innocent to be in jail. But these people are there. I mean, every time the evidence, like you said earlier, Kathy, we have history on our side. We got logic on our side too. So if I watch the news, nonpartisan, just watching the local news, and they say, remember Tuesday, a woman was raped? Well, we arrested the guy today, and now we know his name, and he had 9 priors, or he was wanted for a murder, or he was wanted for a shooting. This is his 37th arrest. When that happens over and over again, it kind of tells us that some of the people, we don't have enough people in the jails.
Yeah. And just to put numbers to what you're saying now, in Philadelphia, there are 8 county jails. And prior to Krasner, who is now being impeached by the grace of God as district attorney, as DA, prior to him coming into office, those 8 prisons, they were at or above maximum capacity. So maximum capacity is 8,000, but they were oftentimes over maximum capacity. But let's just go with maximum capacity. When he gets into office, Now, today, instead of it being, let's say, at 8,000 or above, it is now at 5,000, right? So that means 3,000 people who would generally be in jail somewhere are now out walking on the street. And if
Good.
you
They were
want to
probably
talk
there
about,
they were probably there just because they had a joint.
and if you want to talk about probability, right? I mean, my background is finance. I take a lot of statistic courses. So if you want to talk about probabilities, let's talk about the probability of what is the likelihood that all 3,000 are innocent.
Will?
What portion of those 3,000, right? I mean, like
Will
these
said
are
zero.
these are the
There's no
facts,
chance.
right? Like, I mean, I'm telling you, I would talk about this, like, let's just get to the probability of what we're dealing with here, right? You have 8,000 prior to this man all the time. Really, it was like almost around 9,000. They were over capacity.
But I thought the saying was always, I'd rather 100 guilty men go free than one innocent man to be in jail. So maybe 3,000 people should go free so one pot smoker won't be in jail.
Nah, we need to start hanging and crucifying people again. Like, we're far too kind in this society. It produces a lot of crime.
Will's joking. I believe him. I think
I wasn't kidding at all. Actually,
okay,
the weirdest thing. I mean, for a child rape and that kind of thing.
Murderers.
Yeah, everyone's in favor of death to murderers. But the weirdest thing is the combination of the people that want to defund the police, which is still like half the left, and also the people that want to confiscate guns and open the prisons. And it's almost one of those things like the old joke online, like the demoralization is the point. Like, if you're an actual citizen, there's really no way in that scenario to defend yourself. Like, you don't have any guns, there aren't any cops, and there aren't any places to put bad people that commit crimes. So you kind of have to ask yourself, what's the goal of that on some kind of deeper level? But that actually is what's being proposed.
Not to mention they also want to lock up their political opponents. So how do they lock them up? There are no jails.
Yeah, that's actually pretty funny. I mean, yeah, that's another flip side. Like, I mean,
if I should ever run for office again, I am just playing in my mind how they're going to take this video, they're going to splice YouTube talking about
we did.
killing people. Let me that. Okay.
You can say on the record that you don't endorse crucifixion right now.
Right. You can say you don't agree with us, but we're all like, kill him. If I run for office, play this tape. Charles said, kill him. Yep. What do you say about that, Charles?
Also, as a sometime political consultant, I will say that going on the record and saying you're all about killing murderers is going to play pretty well in most parts of the country. Like, when they actually poll people on this, like, do you think child rapists should be thrown in wood chippers? Everyone's just like, yeah. There's really not a big faction that.
Well, or they'll say no, but I won't be mad if you do it.
Balenciaga lately.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I mean, so that when you talk about, like, there's very systemic kind of cultural rot. I mean, yeah, like you probably said this better than I did, but yeah, Balenci put out a whole ad that was basically kiddie porn. Mm-hmm. There were kids holding, like, anatomically correct fuzzy green teddy bears and crotchless bondage outfits. By the way, ask yourself, if this isn't some pervert shit, excuse the language, what's the target market for that product? Like, who's supposed to be buying the teddy bear in the bondage tie-up?
Well, let's go back. Anyway, I'm a little naive. I've seen the pictures, but what were they actually selling in the ad?
I have no idea.
Those are the pictures, but weren't they like selling a shoe or something?
I think the answer to your question is that they were selling a dark upscale dream. Like, you do see some no, but like I mean, I went to a pretty good law school, and I worked in the nightlife business for a while, and there are a lot of people that like the idea of being evil. There are a lot of people who could seriously say a sentence like "take me" and like lick their lips that exist in the world. And I mean, those are the people that are, then there's nothing wrong with that, really.
Right. I was like, wait.
No, but I mean, like, you're talking about in the situation where there's like a kid in the room with the bondage teddy bear. Like, okay, so to clarify this.
There had to be a product in that ad.
No,
I want to know what the product was.
Well, Shami, you guys were right. In one ad, it was a purse. In another, it was a pair of shoes. But like, so the artistic director for this is actually someone that's well known for basically kiddie porn. Like, I know, and the reason I know this is that I'm technically a lawyer by background, by the way, but child pornography is not generally illegal if it's animated, painted, so on. So this person's known for their paintings of like toddlers with their penises removed and so on down the line. Anyway, so the point of all this, and they have an Instagram that's full of like these bloody, violent images, like a bedroom with blood stains on the floor and ripped underwear in the corners. And this is what I mean by like the I want to be dark tonight kind of stuff.
Mhm.
That's what they're selling, like the battered kid holding the
Right.
bondage teddy bear next to the empty glass of ocean purple red wine. Like that's kind of what they're selling. Like you're upscale and evil and funny if you wear our brand.
Right.
And most people, when they saw that, when that leaked beyond a few fashion magazines, were just openly disgusted. So now the campaign became very famous. Kind of last line on this, but they're now trying to dime the ball to anybody else. Like they're saying that like the photographer who's like this working class Italian guy made this decision on his own, or that like the ad agency, I don't know the exact names, are responsible for this. No, like someone like the creative director, the vice president clearly had to make the call.
Right.
Like there are papers from decisions about kiddie porn on the tables in the ad campaign. Like you can scroll up to them and see these conversations about sex with kids. So at a certain level, a lot of it's very easy to mock this last line when like some conservative mom says it. It sounds stupid and corny and like she and her husband have bad sex. But a lot of our culture is selling evil. There's literally a rave song called Fuck Her, Kill Him. Like to a certain extent, when you get into that ancient Roman kind of product marketing, that's bad. Like adults may enjoy that stuff in private, but you probably shouldn't. The sex and violence, not the kiddie porn, but you probably shouldn't have a kiddie porn marketing campaign for your shoes.
Correct.
And again, no one disagrees.
You
like in real life, like
speechless, Will. You're virtually, because you know I talk a lot, so not completely, but virtually speechless. I guess I want to end with, since Kathy said they're gonna cut this clip up, and I'm already getting her in trouble. I might as well say, so in your book, there's a chapter that talks about a lesson from the Jews.
Wait, what?
I did.
It's a chapter about a lesson from the Jews. So since that's been in the news lately, any thoughts on free speech and Kanye?
Yeah, that's very sad. You know, I did not watch what Kanye said because by the time I had the time and the interest to go and see what in the world did Kanye say, they had taken down all the clips. So I didn't see what he said. I still don't know what he said. I refuse to watch.
That was the original. That's before all the new craziness, because you know there's new craziness.
The new crazy, yes, but just the old
not crazy. Charles.
Shamika said it's not crazy.
It's just above your understanding.
I don't even understand. Thank you. I refuse to watch the shorts because I understand how editing happens, where they can splice and say things. So I don't know what he said that was so egregious that would have this man's life utterly ruined, especially when I'm looking over here at Balenciaga and I don't see nobody being defunded, and Kim Kardashian has yet to condemn them. And so, you know, I'm like, well, what in the world did Kanye say? What did he do? Did he get on a plane named Lola and go to some private sex island named Jeffrey Epstein with little children? Did he have Bill Clinton on the airplane with him like Jeffrey Epstein did? Like, what does he do? What did he do that is so egregious? And I have not seen it. I don't know if he was calling for, you know, everyone to meet him at 5 p.m. because he's going to inflict harm on people. I don't know what he did, but what I do know is that when, you know, shifting from that, when I see these people walk around with black faces or saying really derogatory things, they are allowed to come in front of the camera and say, I'm sorry. And everyone says, hey, thanks. And now I'm looking at a black man who says it, you know, since Black Lives Matter and everything. And I'm seeing this kind of dragging that's taking place. And I'm looking at him. It is very sad. It is disturbing as I watch him. And now the new stuff, that's the new news with him. Again, I think he is perhaps surrounding himself with people who are less desirable, who may or may not be taking advantage of him in this moment of isolation as he's looking for some, I don't know. Right. I don't know him. I don't talk to him. I don't have a bone to pick. I'm just sitting on the outside looking in and I'm saying, where are we as a nation? And then what's even more disturbing is to see these quote unquote conservatives, some of the same ones who were out there trying to drag me across the nation, who say they're conservative, and yet they're the mouthpieces of rhinos and mouthpieces of other interests who are using them to kick a person who's already down. And again, I don't follow Kanye. I'm not up on all the points. I'm just watching on the sidelines like most Americans. And I am asking myself, I mean, where does this go as a country? Am I allowed to make a mistake and apologize and be accepted back into the fold? Or again, are we only looking for Jesus Christ and perfect people? And if the table turns on you, and you're left out here alone, what are you going to do? I mean, I don't know. I find it very disturbing, all of it. I find all of it very disturbing.
I want to let Will and Shamika get the last word, but I do want to say that if you're taking this full circle and going back to the BLM thing, I didn't take a side about supporting, especially not as full throated as Shamika. But what I did think that was odd is that I just sat back as an outsider and said, look at what you all created. You all wanted this. You just got what you wanted. And people look at me like, what do you mean? Well, for 5 years, we've been saying Black voices need to be elevated. Spaces for Black voices. We can't say, we don't have the right to say we're not Black. We need to listen to Black people. They need their own spaces. The voices need to be heard. They put a higher value on what Black people believe than what they said than others. Along comes a Black man that says something, and they're like, well, you can't say that. Well, why not? You just told me I can say whatever. In fact, you said my voice mattered more than yours, right?
So again, I don't know what he said. Now in my book, you referenced it. I wrote that chapter after I spent a little over a week in Israel. And that chapter, I mean, I learned a lot by being in Israel, watching the Jews. I don't know if you can say, somebody said don't say the Jews.
You can't say the Jews, right?
I say it completely lovingly, because I think taking a lesson from the Jews, I mean, of what they have gone through in history and how they have, yes, this happened, now what? Move on, move forward, right? And I think that is a message to the Black race for those who still think we're in, 1863 or 1963, right before 1964 civil rights movement. We're not. And so, yes, wrongs have been done to us as a race, but now we have to find a way to move forward and to heal and to grow and to build, running in this race. And I had the opportunity to be around a lot of different pockets of people, whether the Chinese, like I said to you, I'm leaving from Chinatown now and had a great time down there. I love it. Some amazing people. I'm so excited about Chinese Americans and what we're going to be doing together. But the Hindu community, awesome. And you see these groups of people coming together as a people, and they're thriving, and their focus is on the family, and their focus is on building each other up in their community. And so, whether I'm talking about Chinese Americans, the Hindus, or the Jewish people, is us as Black people. I'm very unnerved about our race and about the community my children are going to inherit. I'm a Black woman married to a Black man raising Black babies, and I am concerned about the community my babies are going to inherit. We are not doing well as a people. We are not connecting. We are not building our people up and our wealth up. And so that is a problem. And so when I came back from Israel, I thought it was, illuminating to me, and I wanted to share that there are some lessons we should be learning from the Jewish people. What Kanye is going through, I don't know what he said, but my heart goes out to another human being who is appears to me to be humiliated and destroyed, and have now gotten into the crosshairs of some very powerful people. And my heart goes out to him.
Will?
Last word to Shamika, I think. I don't necessarily disagree with. I agree with the core theme of the last chapter. I think the name is enjoyably edgy, what we can learn from the Jews or whatnot. But I mean, Booker T.
Now, I
Washington.
wrote that before you couldn't say,
Oh yeah.
the
I just
adjective
used it
the.
to
Well,
spark
I
the
mean,
conversation.
And
we're
the
on here
noun
talking about throwing
Jew.
pedophiles and wood chippers. Like I'm not offended by the name at all. But I will say the idea. I mean, Booker T. Washington has said that. Malcolm X has said that. There's a famous quote: "There is much the Negro can learn from the Jew and the Italian when it comes to the management of money." So that I think that there's something actually very important there when people talk about like this
The
is my
management
knowledge.
of
This is
money, like like the preservation of their culture, the Jewish culture, the preservation of their family. I mean, but again, it's not just the Jewish people. I just mentioned other
uh,
groups of people. And when I'm running in this campaign all across our state, I had the opportunity to walk into all of these communities that we don't generally get a chance to walk into and have dinner and to be in their home and to see this emphasis that's placed on the family. I'm better for having ran and being around all of these different cultures and seeing, what has made them, this concentration of wealth and, I won't want to say Hindu, but the Indian people, and looking at their children and the number of doctors and lawyers and how they're, building each other up. These are some lessons that, I heard Kanye once say a long time ago. He said, I'm jealous of this group of people, and I'm jealous of that group of people. And having gone out and spent time, I understand exactly what he said. I want our people to, to have pride in who we are, to stop murdering our own people, to marry, to make a commitment to, to one another, and to make a commitment to raising their family. I want that for us. I grew up in tremendous brokenness, and yet, because of my grandparents, they were our nets and they caught us. And as a result, I, wasn't as bad as it could have been for my brothers and I. And yet I made a conscious choice to try to do something different with my own family. And I believe no one will ever be able to convince me that how I grew up is better than what I am now having the opportunity to provide to my own children in a stable environment.
Absolutely. I think that the one place I was going with that is that in our society, there's very often the idea of sort of my truth. Like you can't learn much from other individuals. You hear people argue that because of a whole bunch of things, whether that's genetics on the far right or racism on the far left, Black people are almost unique, or every group is. The reality is that like a lot of different peoples are successful at different things, and you can learn from anyone about anything. I mean, they're white Americans could learn a lot from Black Americans, or for that matter, from Frenchmen about physical fitness, for example, comes to mind. Black Americans and white Americans could learn a lot from Asian Americans about going to school and reading the book and doing your homework. So that basic idea that you can pick up things from the other people that you share these diverse societies with, I think that's a great point. So three cheers for the what we can learn from the Jews. And I think that there's something we can all learn from each other. No, I mean, I'm not like being patronizing or over complimenting. I'm just saying, like, yes, of course, Black people can learn things from Jews. What's the average wealth of a Jewish family versus a Black family? And it's not like Anglo whites. You can't argue Jews weren't oppressed. Save money. Don't put rims on the car. There are a whole bunch of things we can all learn from each other. I think the average Black guy can teach the average Jewish guy some things about athletics and game and the arts and so on as well. And that's the plus of living in a big city. You're not there for the filth and the crime.
And so now we
I mean, like just a little. I mean, just real quick. Family, focus on the family, focusing on education, and focusing on creating a strong community. I see that not just in the Jewish community, but in a lot of different communities. And I also see the juxtaposed position within the Black community. And I want our community to thrive as well. And I believe that those are the things we need to focus on: the family, our children, education, and building a strong community.
Shamika?
Well, I would say I need an Asian to share with me a good recipe for tom yum soup. I definitely feel like I could learn that from an Asian. But I want to say, Kathy, I thought, first of all, your description of the khaki pants and the puff vest that was dead on. That was hilarious. But I hope that you do run again. But I am grateful that you at least will continue to fight for this country, because I do think you're an important voice. I agree with you saying that people were attracted to your authenticity. I know that's what attracted me to you. I got a DM about you being a product of rape, which I am as well. And so just your, humanness kind of drew me to you. And so I'm just grateful that you're actually a voice. I think you're a powerful voice. And I do believe that you will only grow and get more powerful, because authenticity, I think people are thirsting for that. We don't get it often. And so I definitely think that in the end will outweigh everything, and it's going to be the key. So thank you.
Well, I guess I can't top that off or add anything else to it. I'll just hold up the book here and say she is Kathy Barnette, author of Nothing to Lose, Everything to Gain, and national spokesperson for 1776 Action. Kathy, thank you for joining us.
Thank you guys for having me on.
Country to say, God bless the US of A, land of the free and a home of the brave. God get all of the praise. I got a country to say, cause I'm Patriot J and I'm saving the day.